Hey guys, it's Jason from Outdoor Adventures, and thank you for joining me today. Hands down, no question about it, footwear is going to be the biggest part of your hiking experience. I mean, if you think about it, you're on your feet all day. I mean, even when you get to camp, you're going to be walking around camp. If you have foot issues because you chose the wrong footwear, you're not going to want to go backpacking anymore. You're going to give up, and that'll be the end of it. That almost happened to me. I was very stubborn about it, thankfully, and I did find the correct footwear eventually. But I started out when I first went on my first backpacking trip. I went online, I found my size, 8 boot, and I was like, okay, what's the deal with these? They're waterproof, they're boots, they got good reviews. I should get these. $80, done. That turned out to be one of my worst decisions when I was backpacking. I didn't try them on in the store. They were very, very uncomfortable. They were too narrow for my foot. They claimed that they were waterproof, and after a few miles in wet conditions, I was soaked. My feet were soaked. I had to change my socks after like 4 or 5 miles into the trip, and it just was not a good time at all. So I began doing some research, and I wanted to stay with boots. So I started looking at, should I get leather? What's this Gore-Tex stuff about? Climate Shield. What is all this stuff? And I decided on a pair of Gore-Tex Salomon boots. Gore-Tex is a material used in many, many popular brands of boots, more expensive boots, really. It allows your foot to breathe, and it keeps water out of your boot. Now, however, with boots, if your feet start sweating, that moisture takes a long time to dry out inside your boot. You almost need to, set your boots up in a place where it's very, very well ventilated. And sometimes when you're on the trail, there's no wind at all, and that obviously most of the time can't happen. But these lasted for a good solid year for me before I started to look into other footwear. And one of my biggest things about wearing boots was they tended to make my knees hurt, particularly the IT band. Now, if you're not familiar with the IT band, it's a tendon that basically runs from your butt down to the side of your knee. And what happens is, as you are constantly lifting your feet up to walk, that tendon is becoming tighter and tighter and tighter. And after a while, after 13, 14 miles into my day, I could barely lift my leg up. So you need to go out and you need to see if you want to do the whole boots thing or if you want to stick with a pair of shoes. Now, my recommendation is to stick with trail runners, but I know a lot of you people aren't going to listen to me because when somebody told me that, I thought they were nuts. I was like, I need boots when I backpack. There's hands down, no questions asked. Anybody that doesn't wear boots is an idiot. Well, that's not always the case, and I did learn a very important lesson my second year of backpacking. When I purchased a trail runner. So if you look at trail runners being obviously more comfortable because your feet can actually breathe a lot better. They fit more snug, they're more comfortable, they allow your foot to actually move so you're not using the same muscle over and over and over again. But they're not for everyone, I'm going to be honest. If you have very weak ankles, I would stick with a full length boot. If you feel confident or want to start off slow and build up your ankles, then I would say go with a trail runner. Now, why the heck would I choose trail runners, which aren't waterproof, over a pair of boots that are nice and sturdy and you can't roll your ankle and they are waterproof? Now, the reason for me is basically comfort is what it comes down to. I can hike a lot more miles in trail runners than I can in boots. Now, having a rigid boot like these aren't going to allow your foot to flex, but they will in these. Now, some downsides about trail runners. Yes, you will get your feet wet, but you will get your feet wet eventually in boots too, just from you sweating. These will dry out a lot faster than the inside of these. I know they say Gore-Tex and they're waterproof, but they're not waterproof from your feet. Another thing that you should look into, especially with boots, is a nice pair of merino wool socks. Merino wool is moisture wicking. Most of them have cushioning where you need it. Your heel, your front of your foot. The people that spent time in a swimming pool or a bathtub even know that once your feet get waterlogged, the skin starts to get very, very soft, and that is the big downside of boots. Once your feet start to get soft, there's more friction and blisters will start to form. One of the ways you can get around and help blisters dry out is, one, when you stop for lunch or take a break, take your boots off, take your socks off, and let your feet air out for 20 or 30 minutes. Another thing you could do is, if you have a pair of dress socks or want to go purchase these kind of socks, these are just little sock liners, and what you'll do is you'll put this on your foot first and put these socks over these. And what that'll allow you to do, it will allow you to take just this sock off when it gets wet, and these dry out a lot faster than something mid-weight like this. But it also cuts down on blisters, because the only friction that you're going to get are between these two pairs of socks, not your foot, the sock, and the boot. So it acts as a barrier, if you will, a friction barrier. And these have worked out great. Now granted, your feet will get sweatier faster with this setup, but at least you can take 2 pairs of these, 3 pairs of these, and dry your feet out on your 15-minute breaks, on your lunch breaks, whatever, when you get to camp. And these work out really well. Now, if you're wearing boots and you've tried the merino wool socks, you've tried the sock liners, and you're still getting a ton of blisters, another product that you can try here is, and this is really worn out, it's called Body Glide. What this is, it's just basically an antiperspirant stick. It doesn't have any smell. I believe you can actually use this as deodorant too, so it can be multi-purpose. But what you do, and my feet are gross, but we got to talk about this, is you find the areas where you're getting your blister, and before you hike out in the morning after you wake up, you're going to just smooth it on like a deodorant stick in your problem places. Like for me, I used to get them on the sides right here. I used to get them right here on my big toe, and then I would get them on my little toe right here. So I would always just do that. Maybe rub this side a little bit here, and you can put this all over your body. Guys, this is a very, very useful product. Just go purchase this. You'll figure out what it's used for later. This will help you avoid a lot of chafing and a lot of discomfort. If you're going to be looking at a product like this, you can also try Gold Bond. It kind of does the same thing. But if you stick with Body Glide, they sell this in a 3-pack. These are stupid. This is actually really, really bad for the price. What you'd think it's like this whole thing filled up, right? But if you open it up, and I haven't even used this yet, you can see that you only have about a quarter of this whole stick is actual product. So make sure you guys don't get one of those. Don't fall into that trap, because just get the whole, just get the stick. This is fine. But if you're going to be looking at trail runners, you can go with a lighter sock. I prefer these, they're called Darn Tough Vermont socks. They're a mixture, basically 65% wool, and then the rest is like spandex and nylon. These are very, very comfortable. These dry out very fast, especially these bicycle socks. But these are meant for hiking. They have a little bit of cushioning. These not so much. When I'm on very rocky terrain, I'll tend to go with this little a thicker, lightweight sock. But if I know that the terrain is going to be smooth and clear for the most part, I will just do these, because these dry out incredibly fast. These are just a really lightweight pair of socks. And the good thing about trail runners is most trail runners are very, very light, and basically trail runners are mostly mesh, okay, and they have the supports where you need it, and mesh dries out really fast, okay. So it can be raining, I'll be wearing these. When the sun comes back out, my feet are fine. Again, I'll take my shoes off and let my feet air out whenever I stop for lunch, but for the most part, while I'm walking, these will just dry out. Whereas, like I said, these boots, you're going to be drying these boots out for quite a while. Also, you need to understand that 1 pound on your feet is equal to 5 to 6 pounds on your back. So if you have a 3-pound pair of boots, you're carrying 15, 16 pounds on your back. So these being right around a pound, maybe even a little bit less, you know, it's only going to be a little bit extra on my back when you convert everything. And for the most part, I find this analogy to be very, very true. Now, whenever you go get your shoes, whether they're boots or trail runners, or if you're just going to wear sandals, whatever, go at the end of the day so your feet are already swollen and you can get the right sizing. My recommendation is to go put on an old pair of shoes, you know, that are very worn in, go hike for 10 to 12 miles, and then immediately go up to the store that you're going to be purchasing your footwear from, and then slide your foot in. If they feel comfortable at that point, you're more than likely safe, because your feet would have already been swollen, and that's what you want. You don't want to try on a pair of shoes like in the morning whenever, you know, they're thinner. As you go through the day, your foot's going to expand, it's going to get larger, and it's going to, you know, just swell up. So the way I try on shoes, and what has been working for me, is I'll put my foot in the shoe and bang my heel against, you know, a hard surface. Now, then I'll take my thumb, and what I like to do is, if I can get a thumb's width between my big toe and the tip of the shoe, then that's pretty much my size. I also like to be able to wiggle my toes around and make sure they're not restricted at all. This will help you a lot, because whenever you buy shoes, what you should do is you actually should go up a half to a full size of your shoes. With boots, I recommend a full size, because you're going to be wearing, you know, thicker socks and maybe possibly a liner. You know, with these, a half size should suffice, because you're not, you know, you're wearing less thick, you know, as you can see. Okay? Less thick socks. So that's what I do. I also make sure to walk around in the store, not just like up and down the aisle. Go around, you know, ask if you can go upstairs. You know, if you're going to a place like REI or, you know, EMS, they should be able to, you know, let you walk around. And hell, even throw on a backpack or something. Let's see how your foot actually feels with some weight. You know, throw some sleeping, a sleeping bag or two in there and see how you feel. Maybe even a tent, and that should get you to where you'll be able to get your first comfortable pair of shoes. And like I said, if you want to start with boots, by all means, go ahead. You may end up converting to trail runners, or if you just want to start trail runners right off the bat, that is your choice. I'm not here to force you into this. I mean, I believe it's more comfortable, but hey, that's just me. You have to do what works for you, and, you know, kind of experiment. The biggest thing with backpacking is experimenting. Now, I also recommend, especially for me, I have very high arches. I recommend getting a pair of insoles. Now, these basically, you just take out the original insole that came with it. Most high-end shoes will have a removable insole. At least I would hope so. And I really like Superfeet, and I like these new ones called Soles. The soles being heat moldable. Basically, you just pop these in the oven for a little bit and throw them in your shoe, and then step in them, and then don't move, and they'll kind of mold around your toes and your heel, and it'll give you some nice support. You can also choose, you know, high arches like I have. I've used Superfeet, I've used Soles. They're both very good brands. I prefer Soles just because they're heat moldable and you don't have to break them in as long. Now, if you do decide to go with boots, and there's nothing wrong with that, believe me, I used these for a long time before I switched over. You know, if you have ankle issues, you know, stay with boots. Don't even chance it. The worst thing you could do is break your ankle when you have 15 miles back to your car. That's going to be a really bad experience for you. If you do decide to bring boots, though, and you're noticing that, you know, you just can't keep them on anymore when you get to camp, you just want these boots off, you know, bring a pair of sandals, you know, something lightweight that you can just throw in your backpack. You know, you can use sandals multi-purpose. say you need to cross a stream and the water is going to be above where your foot goes in. You know, even if you have waterproof boots, the water is just going to pour in, and your boot is never going to dry. It's going to take days. So, you know, sometimes what I would do is if I knew that I'm going to have some stream crossings, or I knew it was going to be a long mileage. I know people cringe at the sight of these, but these are Crocs, and I don't care what you think, these are freaking comfortable. But a pair of sandals will do. I know they are absolutely hideous, but I really don't think Bigfoot gives a crap what your fashion sense is out while you're hiking. And they work very well. They kind of protect your foot as well too. Plus, I always like to bring a pair of shoes that I can drive home in. You know, I don't like sitting in my car driving 3 or 4 hours home and having wet feet. I just kind of like taking the socks off, shoving my foot in here, and doing it. Like I said, bring sandals even. They're really lightweight, you know, and you can walk around camp and feel good about yourself while your boots dry out. Now, one final thing. Footwear is going to be one of those things that you're just going to have to play around and experiment with. It took me almost 2 years to figure out exactly what I needed, what size to get, what to look for in a shoe. You just got to play around with it. You know, you may spend some money here. Hopefully you find your magic shoe, your magic brand, you know, right off the bat. I'm really hoping that you can do that. I know for me, I've probably spent $300, $400 on just shoes alone, trying to figure out what I actually needed. And it was a struggle. It really was. But just remember, you will find it. There is a shoe out there that will fit your foot. You know, try not to get frustrated. I know I was getting pretty frustrated. But then everything just kind of clicked into place, and I'm able to do, you know, 20 mile plus days without any foot issues. So stick with it. We'll go into blister care and first aid and all that stuff in a later video. But for now, just get your footwear and get out there and hike. See if you like hiking. So guys, this is Jason from Outdoor Adventures, and I hope this helps somebody.